So I just do a quick introduction of who Signal Alliance Consulting is. Like I said earlier, Signal Alliance Consulting is a subsidiary of Signal Alliance Technology Holding. Signal Alliance Consulting is an enterprise technology solutions company which delivers strategic technology solutions for business growth. Our practice includes cloud data and artificial intelligence, modern work, cybersecurity, infrastructure and service management, managed outsourced service, and digital/business applications. Today's webinar is going to be delivered by three fantastic people, and I'd like to hand over to Pumzile to introduce them to you. But before we begin, please hear a few house rules. Kindly ensure to keep your mics muted as we proceed. Do not turn your cameras on except you want to be seen, and note that this session is recorded, so just in case you do not want to be seen across all digital platforms, please keep your cameras turned off and your microphones muted as well. So Pumzile, over to you. Please introduce yourself to the house and we can commence. Thank you all so much for joining in.
All right, thank you so much, Iyabode, and to the Signal Alliance team for inviting Cisco to this event. Welcome to the wonderful customers. My name is Pumzile Simani and I represent the Cisco channel team. From a Cisco perspective, where I'll just introduce the hosts of the show. We have Lucy Mbugua, who is the systems engineer for Cisco Systems. We also have the lovely country manager, the Cisco Nigeria country manager, Sebastian Ziadibe. We also have Abdelaziz Saidu, who is the leader of systems engineering at Cisco Nigeria, as well as the wider account teams. We'll also have Mohammed Atia, who is the full stack observability sales business development manager for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. And yes, we also have the Cisco sales team on the call. We have some Thousand Eyes representatives as well. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Samuel to get started.
All right, thank you very much, Pumzile. Again, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you're connecting from. I hope you can see and hear me clearly. Thank you again for your time. As introduced this session, first of all, I have to introduce myself properly. So my name is Samuel Emesoronye. I am the practice lead for infrastructure and service management, right? So we are with the Signal Alliance team, Signal Alliance Consulting team. So today we really want to talk about full stack observability. Okay, so I'd like to try to introduce full stack observability to us. So pretty much we know that an application is, what exactly is an application? What exactly do we want to talk about, right? We live in a time that we have experienced some unprecedented changes. In the past 2 to 3 years, you will agree with me that the world has gone through some drastic changes, especially with the occurrence of COVID-19, the pandemic. That has led the world to begin to explore and exploit digital platforms more for engagement. So technology has come to impact us, and we have seen the relevance of technology even in our everyday life, right? So we see that, for instance, from hailing a cab to ordering for your food and all of that, technology has come to stay and has provided easier and comfortable alternatives, right? So even the way we learn, the way we work, that has also been impacted greatly. That means that applications are now our businesses, right? So for the food vendors, for the taxi industry, for the hoteling industry, and a whole host of other industry, application has now become the lifeline of their business. So the companies that fail to digitally transform are companies that may not be able to thrive in this digital transformation era, right? So we have customers that have experiences on these digital platform services, and the speed and efficiency of these digital platforms and our applications will determine which customer sticks with what provider and which customer moves to another provider. Because if the digital experience they are having with the services that are being rendered by these companies are not at par with their competition, they will very well easily move. So it means that our user experience, our customer user experience across all application stack from mobile to other means of application has to become well managed, right? So that we can get the desired outcome of customer engagement, patronage, and loyalty, right? So that's the core of what we are trying to deliver today or engage us on as to what digital transformation exactly means for our application and for user experience yes. Over to you now, Lucy.
All right, thank you, Samuel, for that introduction. So I'll share my screen. I hope you can see it. So my name is Lucy Mbogwa. I'm a channel engineer here at Cisco, supporting Sub-Saharan Africa. Today I'm going to talk.
Hi, Lucy. Sorry, just you can switch the screen. Swap the display. You can see the notes
right.
here.
Just a moment.
Okay. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for that. So today I'll be talking to you about full stack observability. And as Samuel has mentioned, we're coming from COVID, where we saw a lot of organizations move their services, the services that they were otherwise offering, I would say, a la carte, move into the digital space. So of course, with moving services into the digital space, it comes with developing applications, developing microservices, coming up with these platforms that will allow them to be able to interface or interact with their customers digitally. And of course, that comes with some complexities as well as some challenges, because most of the time, and especially if you're not interfacing with a customer directly, if you're going through a platform, sometimes you may never get to know the issues that a customer could be facing all along within their experience as they transact with whatever application that it is that they are using. And today, if you look at what we've been talking about, digital transformation has been a common theme for the past, I would say, decade. And we do appreciate that a number of our customers are at different stages within their digital transformation roadmap. But when it comes to delivering services digitally, applications are at the core of that. And it's key for us to be able to address and look at what dependencies or what factors within the application and surrounding the application would affect the experience that a customer or a user would have while they're using that application. So if you look at the evolution that has happened in the application space, there's quite a lot that has happened. We're talking about distributed applications now. Today, we're also talking about containerized deployments of application. In our customer space, quite a lot of them are now moving their workloads from on-premise to the cloud. So in this case, we're looking at a hybrid scenario. So you have a customer running some part of the application on-premise and a part of it in the cloud, or we could say it's a hybrid environment. And of course, looking at this, the different infrastructure, probably consuming different clouds, different public clouds, of course, it brings a lot of complexity around visibility into the application itself, the application performance, the infrastructure in order to enable a very good customer experience. And I think what time has taught us, and for many of us, we do interact with a lot of these applications. It could be in the banking environment. For instance, I've changed banks because I had a very bad experience with the application. Using an iPhone, every time there was an update, I needed to uninstall and install again. And sometimes when I could put in my username and password, I could never get the OTP. And most of the times I would have to call the contact center, get support, and then eventually I'd be told you need to reinstall the application. So these are some of the challenges that our customers face. And sometimes we may never really get to know that a certain user was experiencing this challenge. So looking at all this, as Samuel has mentioned, applications are now the business because with disgruntled or unhappy customer, it means they'll either move to competition, so that means you lose business. They could go in and complain. I know today with the era of social media, maybe on Twitter, you find that you can easily go in there and talk about a certain solution and when a certain product, and when other people have experienced the same thing, it could lead to very bad reputation damage for a company. So it's key for us to be able to address and provide visibility into the full journey, the full user journey of a user when they're using applications in order to be able to be more proactive, such that it's not when a user, and a user here could be an employee within the organization or even a customer interfacing with your applications. So it could be either. And it's key for us to be able to map out that journey and not wait until a user has called in to IT saying, okay, this is not working, this is very slow, I'm experiencing this and this challenge. So to be more proactive in this is where the visibility needs to come in. And the challenge we've had in the network is that we have different people handling these different aspects in the network. As you can see from this, we have the application at the core, yes, so that means we have the application teams, we have the infrastructure teams, the network teams, the security teams, and also from a business perspective, we do have the KPIs from the leadership and the business leaders. Now, if you look at these different users, most of the time, they may be working in silos, and there could be very many tools that exist within the organization that each of these players use. So that means there's no shared context for them to be able to map out a user journey and be able to pinpoint that this could be a network issue that is impacting the application performance. This could be an infrastructure issue that could be affecting the application performance, and so on and so forth. So with this is what our full stack observability solution comes to address. First of all, we eliminate the whole siloed working of the different players within the network, and then bring them to be able to work more together by giving them a common dashboard where they can be able to have visibility into exactly what's going on within the network. Now, just to look at what our observability has to offer, so we're able to provide visibility across the business, across the end user experience. Remember, I'm talking about the experience quite a lot. And then looking at the applications, and here at the application level, something very cool. We look at it all the way to the code level, because there could be something, there could be the way that code is written that is actually impacting the application performance. It could be a slow SQL query, it could be maybe JVM performance issues, it could be anything, but within the code level. And also, even when you're looking at the security element to it, it could be a vulnerability that could be existing at the code level. So these are some of the things that we look at. And then we look at the data center infrastructure, because of course, this application will sit somewhere in a data center. Whether it's on premise, whether it's on cloud, it really doesn't matter. Wherever it is that we sit, we will be able to look at the infrastructure around it and ensure that whatever the application demands in terms of resources, it could be compute and so on and so forth, it is availed to the resource in real time as and when required, and this is done dynamically so that we can ensure that at any given point that application performs as optimally as it should be. So we do this, so our full stack observability solution is supported by a number of solution sets, and maybe you may have already probably heard a bit about them. We have App Dynamics, we have Thousand Eyes, we have Secure Application, which is a component of App Dynamics. We have Intersight that looks into the infrastructure side around infrastructure workload optimization, and of course the security element that looks at the whatever security vulnerabilities may exist. So these combined and integrated will be able to ensure that you have very good visibility across the entire technology stack and can be able to map out the user's experience and be able to pinpoint exactly where the issues could be happening within this user journey, so that the teams can be more proactive in correcting those issues even before they actually happen, or even before quite a number of people call in to complain about this and this and this could be happening. So with this, we'll go ahead and look into a number of use cases that we have within the full stack observability solutions. And these use cases are classified in terms of the performance, optimization, and security use cases, because we do understand that as our customers, it could be in your digitization roadmap journey, it could be at different points, maybe looking at different use cases. However, in terms of our recommendation, we do recommend going with the advanced use cases that look at the integration across all these platforms. So when you talk about the performance, here we're just seeking to improve the application performance and be able to correlate whatever metrics we see with the business outcome. For instance, how much money am I losing because a certain component of the application is down, and so on and so forth. And then in terms of optimization, here we are looking at, with the infrastructure and the resources that we have available, how do we match them to the needs of the application or the business demands? Because for instance, as an organization, you could be running some, say a campaign, it could be a certain season you're running a campaign, and the application may require some more additional resources in order to be able to handle the demands that are being put on that application. So this is where the optimization element comes in, to ensure that whatever resources this application requires, they are provided as dynamically and in real time as when they're required. And then of course, in terms of security, as I've just mentioned, so here we look at runtime and development application security all the way to the code level. And of course, the beauty about it is that we're eliminating the silos that exist between the application, the network guys, the infrastructure guys, the security guys, to enable them to be able to work more together by leveraging a common dashboard. So in my next slides, I'll just look a step further into the different use cases that exist. We do have the foundational use cases as well as the advanced use cases. So for foundational use cases, here we are looking at, here we look at delivering the monitoring and visibility across specific domains. So for this, as you can see, we have for the DevOps, the AppOps, the infrastructure, the network, and so on and so forth. However, it's at the advanced stages, as advanced use cases, as I had mentioned. This is where we have the integrations across these solutions that I just mentioned. And of course, with the advanced use cases, key about them is that, of course, they'll help the teams to be able to work more together. And of course, with things like looking at the mean time to repair, which is a metric that measures the time required to be able to troubleshoot something that has failed within the network. So that can be very considerably reduced, because we bring the teams to work together. We can be able to pinpoint where the issues are. And of course, this will help your organization to be able to respond to downtimes, breakdowns as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So the business is up and running as optimally as it should. Something else that we've seen in a number of environments, and I'm sure probably you've experienced it in your environment, is that most of the time when there is an issue, with the teams working in silos, they'll keep pointing at each other. Oh, the issue is not with the application, it's with the network. Oh, then the network guys will say the issue is in the infrastructure, with the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So to eliminate all this, so that's why we are bringing in these full stack observability solutions to be able to help our customers to be able to have visibility, rectify issues as quickly as possible, and of course keep your business up and running to ensure that you're not losing money because something is broken or there's something wrong with the platforms that you've availed for your customers to be able to interface with you. And of course, this is with the applications. So I'll now go ahead into each of the use cases. We do have the hybrid application monitoring use case. And ideally, this hybrid application monitoring, we leverage agents to measure the performance of whether it's a traditional or a hybrid applications, maybe for instance, maybe an SAP application. And usually this one ties in more to the application teams, and it helps them to be able to correlate the application performance and the user experience to the business result. And then, of course, that in turn will help you to be able to proactively identify issues and remediate them as quickly as possible, which is what we are trying to arrive at. And this is enabled primarily by a solution we call App Dynamics. So, and with App Dynamics, we deploy agents within the application that give us an understanding of the user and whatever end user issues that the user could be facing to ensure that they're identified proactively. So ideally here, we are able to follow the user from the device, whatever device they're using, over into the network and into the application, and of course, the underlying infrastructure around it. Then when you look at the modern application monitoring, if you look at cloud native applications, they are usually very highly distributed, could be microservices oriented, and could be hosted anywhere, whether it's on a public or a private cloud. And it could also be a container environment, as mentioned, because today we are talking about containerization, even as you position also our data center infrastructure, there's quite a lot that we're talking about containerized environments. And if you look at this, it of course creates a complexity around managing whatever performance problems that could be caused by infrastructure related issues. Because we are looking at a scenario where you have your infrastructure on premise, you're running some services in the cloud, could be different clouds and so on. So that is the complexity we're talking about. And here we're trying to provide visibility to ensure that whatever issues that could be happening are identified as quickly as possible. So with a solution we call AppDynamics Cloud, we're able to provide real-time observability across the entire technology stack. And this includes the applications, the data center, so the computer environment, storage, the network, as well as other infrastructure. And here what we do, we collect metrics, events, logs, traces, and analyze them, triage them to be able to troubleshoot whatever issues or performance issues that could be happening within the network. Now, there's also something we call application dependency monitoring. And this is an interesting one because we are coming from, there was an outage, the Microsoft outage that happened some few weeks back. So ideally, so the internet, the cloud providers and the networks, as well as other third-party services, usually affect the end user experience. Because sometimes there could be an issue, it's outside of the network. But then because the internal teams are in darkness around where the issue could actually be, they're trying to shoot in the dark, trying to find out, okay, where could be the issue is? Where could be the issue? Without visibility into what's happening outside, it becomes very difficult to be able to pinpoint where the issue is. And so by monitoring, so when you're looking at the internet, the cloud provider networks, of course, this may impact how the application is performing, and that one is outside of your control. But by monitoring and collecting performance data across the internet, probably looking at things like the routing behavior, your connectivity with the ISP, additional network metrics, the cloud connectivity, and so on, we are able to monitor how their performance impacts the application's availability as well as the end user experience. So this is usually made possible through Dynamics and Thousand Eyes. You may have probably already heard about Thousand Eyes. So Thousand Eyes has an authoritative view of the global network health across all ISPs. We've deployed very many agents across different ISPs, so we do have quite a very good view of the internet, other cloud services, software as a service platforms, and even other external providers. And this will be able to empower your internal teams to be able to establish if a certain issue happening at a global level is actually impacting the users. So with Thousand Eyes, you'll be able to proactively diagnose network issues that could be impacting the customer experience. And so of course, I was talking about these different people trying to find out where the issue is. Now the teams will be able to extend their root cause analysis for the network into the internet and other software as a service, cloud platforms, and so on and so forth. And then that will make it very easy to be able to troubleshoot any connectivity and network issues that are affecting the application performance. So of course, in the end, this will eliminate that finger pointing when there are issues, and of course, very less time will be wasted while trying to troubleshoot local issues, because if you can pinpoint that the issue is not internal and it's external, then it becomes very easy to be able to do that. Now, just also to mention on that, with Thousand Eyes, we're also able to deploy agents on endpoints. So these are your user endpoints, and that makes it very easy for us to be able to map out the user journey all the way from their device into the internet, into the application, and into the data center. When you look at the customer digital experience, and I think I've already alluded into this. So with AppDynamics, of course, it provides a deeper understanding of the user to ensure that the issues are identified proactively. So as I've mentioned, we follow the user. all the way. And then, so if there's any issue in any part of the user journey, we pinpoint it, rectify it as quickly as possible so that the business is not losing money because of whatever issues. And it could be also even for the internal employees to ensure that they're more productive, the productivity levels are not affected because they're having quite a lot of challenges working with whatever applications or platforms they have available for them. So app dynamics, of course, as I mentioned, leveraging agents. So we are able to go into the application code for monitoring, monitor performance between service tiers, and identify any anomalies that could be impacting business transactions. And my colleague Mohammed Atia in the demo will elaborate more further to show you how this is done. Now, with Thousand Eyes, remember I talked about, when we're talking about the advanced use cases, we're looking at the integrations between this platform because only then can we better offer the entire full stack visibility into what could be happening. So with Thousand Eyes, so of course we'll be able to diagnose any network issues that could be affecting your customers' experience, and of course also extend the root cause analysis into for the network and the internet issues. Now, so both of these platforms, of course, we bring in the AppOps, the DevOps, the NetOps teams together and give them that common dashboard, as you've seen the demo, to be able to detect any incidents across the entire stack that could be impacting the application performance. And of course, this will better the mean time to repair should there be any issues within the network. Now, another use case is around hybrid cost optimization. Of course, cost is a key issue. I know very many times when you're talking about digital transformation or whatever projects that may involve acquiring solutions, of course, cost comes in. So we do understand that it's quite a key thing that is being discussed in our customer environments today. So around cost, we do have a solution known as Intersite Workload Optimizer. And with Intersite Workload Optimizer, we're able to provide visibility, and this is mostly for the infrastructure teams, into the underlying cloud infrastructure, so hybrid cloud infrastructure. So with infrastructure optimization, we do it in such that if there's an application issue at any layer of the stack, so it could be in the cloud, it could be on-prem, we can be able to quantify whatever changes that need to be done, and this is from an infrastructure perspective, to improve the application performance, because it could be that whatever has been provisioned for these application resources, compute memory, disk, and so on and so forth, may not be sufficient. So we, and also depending on, as I'd mentioned when I started earlier, maybe there could be a campaign or something. You want to be able to scale up and scale down as and when required. So when you scale down, the resources are available to other applications. And when you scale up, it's considering whatever resources are available. So with Intersite Workload Optimizer, we can be able to quantify whatever changes need to be made to improve the performance of the application, and then execute now those actions. So we're able to do this automatically, dynamically, and in real time. So that really helps with the management, especially in cloud environments where we know how expensive it can be. So that really helps with the management of the cost element. Now, we're also able to provide insight into containerized infrastructure, into the traditional environment, the traditional data centers that you could be having already, in order to prevent you, especially when a customer is running a hybrid environment, so that we can keep, we can ensure that the cloud spend is not too much, and whatever resources are available with you on premise, you actually utilize them and utilize them as effectively as possible. So of course, this will allow you, together will allow you to be able to lower costs, especially for the public clouds, because you'll only pay for only what you require. So that really helps manage the cost element. Now, when you look at application resource optimization, I've just talked about cost optimization, but you'll see that cost optimization and resource optimization, they go hand in hand, because for an application to perform, it needs the right size, the right amount of infrastructure resources, as I mentioned. So by using machine learning, we're able to provide you with visibility, insights, and automation to be able to right size the resource requirement for each of your application. And this is for whether it's on cloud, whether it's on premise, whether it's in a container environment, we're able to provide you with that. So the resource optimization is done based on the demands of the application, as I mentioned. And of course, with this, you'll be able to eliminate any idle or forgotten assets, and also get real-time insights on your cloud environment to ensure that you're continuously getting the most out of the investment that you made, and that your applications receive the exact size of resources that they require. So with App Dynamics here, we're able to get very meaningful data to ensure that whatever recommendations are being made for the applications in terms of the resources required, they're the right recommendations, and they're made at the right time. So I think I've talked about this. Or something else about this, we are also able to look at whatever workloads and match them to the best public cloud platform available, because it could be to the best public cloud or a combination of clouds, because we've realized majority of our customers are running either they've started moving the workloads to the cloud, running workloads in different cloud environments, and so on. So as part of this, as part of capability with this solution, we are able to match your workload to the best public cloud available. Of course, looking at the cost element that, but also not impacting impacting the application performance. So we can also be able to do that. Now, we talked about application security, and here with the Cisco Secure solution, as I mentioned, part of App Dynamics, we are able to simplify whatever vulnerability fixes and security incidents by helping your application and your security teams to be able to work together. So here, and of course, this is a security capability that is brought about in addition to the broader Cisco security portfolio that we have. So with vulnerability assessment at runtime, we are able to detect any application, any code level or configuration level security vulnerabilities that could be happening, and of course that will help your teams to be able to look into it and ensure that it's corrected. So also at runtime, you're able to identify when attack is happening, and by this is by detecting what is happening inside the code and preventing any known exploits from occurring in real time. So this will provide a very cohesive effort to be able to help you mitigate any security issues that could be happening here at real time. So I've just covered the use cases. As you can see, there are quite a number of them. We do recommend the advanced use cases due to the integration across the platforms. And with this, of course, the result from it will be, we'll be able to help you improve your customer satisfaction. And this also includes your internal employee satisfaction, because if the applications perform as optimally as they should, because you have visibility, you have eyes into what's happening, and are able to proactively correct issues before they actually lead to maybe loss of money and so on and so forth. So of course, this will improve your customer satisfaction, create customer stickiness. Your customer will not be going to competition because they're having a very bad experience with the platforms that you provided for them to interface with you. And of course, lowering costs. I've talked about cost optimization, resource optimization, of course, that eventually translate you to lowering your costs by ensuring that you're able to utilize whatever resources you have currently in your data center as optimally as possible, and as well as control and give you visibility into the cloud spend in terms of the whatever you're running within the public cloud environment, to ensure that you have very good, you maximize your returns on the investments that you make on that. And of course, accelerate innovation. We're bringing these different teams to be able to work together, of course, very quickly, identify issues, correct them as quickly as possible. So this gives them more time to be able to be more innovative around the network, because a lot of time, usually from experience, we've seen quite a lot of the IT teams spend quite a lot of time trying to troubleshoot, shooting in the dark. But now with visibility into what's happening, it becomes very easy for these different teams to work better together. Of course, use very little time to be able to sort out whatever issues that could be happening, and of course provide more time for them to be able to innovate better, and of course increase resiliency, because you have visibility into your infrastructure, visibility into your application, whatever is happening within the network. So of course, high availability within your applications, because issues are not whatever issues that could be happening are not causing so much downtimes and issues with your customers or internal teams. So of course that eventually will translate to better resiliency. So I'll stop there and I'll hand over to my colleague Mohamed Atia, who will show a demo and demonstrate quite a number of these use cases that I've talked about, and then we will have a Q&A session to pick up any questions that may have come up. So over to you, Mohamed.
Okay, thank you very much everyone for your time. And now we just want to do a little bit of a kind of practical representation of all of the things that Lucy just mentioned around this solution. So we're going to get right into it, just jump right into it. So the scenario we have here is we have a bank, and this bank has developed a new feature to their mobile banking application. And that feature is around automatic loan approval for customers with a high credit score. And the idea is that they have developed this application, they've finished writing the code, and they need to deploy this application to the public within the 2 weeks. And within these 2 weeks, they need to ensure that this application or that this feature set or this enhancement to their existing mobile banking application is performing the way that it needs to perform, and that the customer doesn't experience any type of issues in terms of getting through with this service. So here's how the application feature would look from the front end, and this is the customer-facing component of the application for the scenario. So what we're looking at is giving this bank's customers the capability to get automatic loan approval for small to medium loans of up to 10,000 euros. And being able to accomplish that within the application without any interaction with a customer service representative. So this bank feels that deploying this feature out to the public will give them a significant operational advantage among other banks that don't provide this service. So this is a convenient way for customers to get small loans approved automatically without having to go to the bank, without having to sign anything, without having to do paperwork, without having to go and make any customer service call, etc., etc. So here's how the front end looks for the customer. Excuse me. Okay, so you can see here that the customer simply needs to input. Again, keep in mind this is part of an existing mobile application, so all of the user data would already be in place. The only thing they would need to input are these two fields, and the application would then go out and have ties out to many other parts of the bank system, noting the customer's current status with the bank, their existing balance, and then it would call out to third-party services to find out what that customer's credit score is, and then it would go to, again, another service within the bank known as the underwriting service, and then it would come back and transfer the money directly back to the customer's bank account, and then automatically debit the amount of monthly installments until the loan is finalized. So great service, great concept. Let's take a look at what full stack observability can do for this scenario. So again, keep in mind everything you just heard around, bringing teams together, bringing tools together in a single dashboard, and really relating telemetry between the tools to each other to bring you, as the person deploying this application or the team that is together responsible for the experience that the customer has with regards to this application, streamlined and have no issues, and when an issue comes up, being able to diagnose, mitigate, and repair them in a timely manner. So here's how the operational dashboard looks. This is full stack observability for the scenario that we mentioned earlier. So you as the customer would see this type of dashboard for each and every application that you deploy out to your own users. So what we see here is the customer journey being broken down into a couple of different steps. And the first part, and we look at the high-level steps, involves credit score approval, a security type of verification approval, underwriting approval that I mentioned earlier, and final approval, which then kicks off the transfer of the money into that customer's account. So when we dig into a little bit further and we break down the customer journey between the front end and what we're calling the back end, the front end has the landing page. That's the first page that the customer would see. when they open up this feature within the application or within the tool, they would fill out the form and then they would hit submit. So as far as the front facing or the customer is concerned, this is all they would see. They would click go, and then the back end does its thing, and it would then be broken down into these further components, and we're calling this the loan journey. So again, loan submit service, then goes to the credit score check service, then it goes to the security verification, then going into the underwritten or the underwriter documentation, and then into that final loan service approval. So those are the steps that the application takes, and this is all things that are written into the application that we work out with you when you come to deploy this type of dashboard in your environment. So this is all custom for each and every individual application. Now what you can see here on this dashboard is a couple of things. So the first thing is that any team member that we deem to give rights to see this view will have this view. And I think that varies or contrasts very, very strongly with maybe like a business as usual or a status quo type of setup, where each and every individual team member would only see what's happening within their own environment. So we mentioned, the status quo would be the networking team or the networking administrator would only have access to the view of their own network, where they have their network tools and they know what's happening on the network side. Same thing goes for the application side, same thing goes for the infrastructure side. And to make matters worse, those tools only know what they know. So in this scenario, we have a tool that knows what every other part of the stack knows, relates the data to each other to bring you a very high level of intelligence about what's happening simultaneously within your environment across all layers of the stack. Then we take all of that information and present it in a single dashboard that each and every team member can access simultaneously. So in this scenario here, we're looking at, a view of what happened for this loan service application, this auto loan service application over the course of the last 6 hours. And you'll be able to drop down and select what timestamp you want to look at, whether you want to look at it instantaneously, in real time, or whether you want to look at the last 2 days, the last 2 weeks, and find out what the performance of the application looks like and where some customers potentially got stuck as they went through the loan journey. So in this situation, we have a couple of important metrics here up top, and we are looking at how we look in this last 6 hours versus this same timestamp a day ago. And we can see that 2.2% less loans happened to be completed for an amount that was about 4% higher in terms of the amount of money that was requested. And the end-to-end time for loan approval for each customer on average was just under 4 minutes at 212 seconds, which is fantastic for getting a loan like that approved automatically. So as an operations manager, you'll have this view, and you might want to, come look at this summary here in the area that I'm highlighting with my mouse, with my cursor, and you'll see that again over the past 6 hours, 185 customers logged in and requested a loan. Now, of those 185, we can see that they all got to the underwriting part except for one customer. And you might want to understand why that customer failed in his or her journey, and then understand down what happened. Was it a application code issue? Was something stuck? Was there an error in the code? Was there an error in the way that the customer was accessing it from the network side, from the service provider side? Internally, was there a certain type of memory issue within a part of my infrastructure? So this dashboard will give you an extremely direct and easy way of answering that question. Again, and you compare that to the status quo, where you might not even know that this is happening. You might not even know that certain number of users failed to get through the journey. Maybe those users gave up without opening a ticket. So in that case, you don't know what you don't know. But let's assume that, with the status quo view, you might have gotten a call from a customer saying, hey, I tried to go through this new feature and I'm getting blocked at this point. There's no response back. So then at that point, you would call each individual team member and try to figure out what's going on. Usually the first step is to blame the network person, but in this case, when you adopt this type of technology in your environment, everyone can see what's happening in a shared view. So let's dig into what's happening here. So in this case, again, now we know that somebody failed to go through the whole journey without them picking up the phone to call, which is fantastic. That's going to give you a leg up on anyone else who has not adopted this type of solution. Now let's dig into it. Well, here's the loan journey. Here's where we see a red box. So let's click on this red bubble here and see what's happening. And this is a view of the application performance monitoring subtool within the FSO environment. Now within this tool, we can see it digs down into each and every individual service that is driving the application itself. So there's many different services that are being called upon, and this is a kind of a diagram or a network representation of the intelligence or of the code of the application. So in each one of these different services, we can see that there was a reasonable amount of latency and there were no issues from the credit score call, from the approval service. Something happened though on the loan database. So something happened on the loan database that caused a 3.1 second delay in response time versus all of the other services, which were anywhere between 6.3 milliseconds all the way up to 586 milliseconds. And by the way, you as the user of this tool will set what the acceptable amount of latency is for each one of these services as we set up the application together. So we know here the reason it's red is because it's far exceeding whatever threshold was put in. In this case, it happens to be 700 milliseconds. So we said 700 milliseconds is a threshold where a customer will get frustrated and log off or give up. So let's set that threshold there for this particular service, and we can see if we click into it, well, there's 3.1 seconds of latency. Why? Well, there was an error and an extended amount of response time from the loan service, and that loan service is calling out to the credit score service. So there's an issue here. Well, where is it? So credit score service is taking all this time because there was an error from the credit score API. So then you would be able to go down and figure out what's happening at that API and resolve the problem very quickly, as opposed to, you know, in a scenario where you did not have this tool, or each individual member of the team had their own tool and would go in and say, well, everything's working fine on my side. And you would be right back where you started. Or again, as I mentioned, you wouldn't even know that this issue was taking place to begin with. So that's fantastic. That's on the application side. And again, all of the data is correlated to each other. Let's take a look at what might be happening on the network side. So here we can see on the bottom right side of this dashboard a really nice high-level summary of what's happening at the network layer. If we click on that, we'll go into our Thousand Eyes dashboard. And this is an extremely powerful tool that gives you visibility into what's happening not only on your internal network, that's happening on your internal network, and we do that through something called enterprise agents, where we have deep visibility into all of the endpoints and all of the individual components that make up your network, but also what's happening on the third party, an area that you have no control over, that is definitely affecting your customer's experience. So that's the tricky part in today's world, is that you want to enhance or maximize a customer's experience when they access your applications, but there's some parts of the application or some parts of that access journey that you may not have control over. But with this tool, you're not going to have control over it, but you're going to have visibility of it. So in this case, we're talking about cloud agents that give you deep insights into what's happening in each and every one of the third-party services that are associated with your customer's access to the application. So in this case, we talk about a service provider cloud agent, and we can talk about a cloud provider cloud agent. So in terms of a third-party SaaS tool that is commonly used. Lucy mentioned the Office 365 example. There was definitely some downtime there that probably caused a whole lot of frustration in a whole lot of businesses, where someone, at least for the first couple of hours, was looking internally to think, something's wrong with my network. That's why my users can't access their email. But in reality, it was a problem with Microsoft. And had you adopted this tool, you would have been able to immediately see and call Microsoft and say the problem is that, and I guarantee you that for the first 1,000 calls that Microsoft got, they turned around and told those customers, it's your network side. I don't have anything wrong with my data center. But when you have this tool, you can actually show them proof and say, nope, actually, Thousand Eyes happens to have a cloud agent in your data center, which is located in X and Y location, and that's why my users can't access. So you better look into this and don't close my case. Going back to this application, that's part of this example, the loan service or the loan journey. We can see that, when the two different third-party APIs that are providing back this this credit check, there are no issues here from a network standpoint. Now, we saw in the previous part of this demonstration that there was an issue from the call out from the web server, but in this situation, there's no problem on the network side. And then the other cool thing that Thousand Eyes does for you within full stack observability is it also gives you a summary of what's happening in terms of the time it takes or the latency for users from different locations worldwide. And this can be from, even if you have an application that's being deployed in a single country or a single city, you're still going to have customers accessing it from different locations. And you'll be able to understand in a single view what's happening for customers that are accessing from these different locations or these different touch points. So that's the power of this tool from a network standpoint. Let's go back to the main dashboard and now see what might be impacting this application from an infrastructure standpoint. And if we go back and think about the resource optimization use case and the hybrid cost optimization use cases that were mentioned earlier, where the telemetry between our App Dynamics tool or our application performance monitoring tool is being shared with the Intersite Workload Optimizer tool that's looking at the infrastructure holistically. That's an extremely powerful tool. So we go in here and we click and we see what's happening at the infrastructure layer. So this is looking at your virtual machines. This is looking at your VMs. And again, all of this is completely operating system, hypervisor, and hardware agnostic. So this is looking at the storage nodes, looking at in this case, it happens to be a couple of containerized applications, and we can click and see what happens. So in the virtual machine, the kind of traditional component of this application, we do see a red spot here, 1. So let's click on that and see what is happening on the infrastructure layer. So here we can see, okay, well, there's a certain virtual machine here that's exceeded its memory limit. So it's going to need to have a resize. Now, this tool will not only give you that information, but when you start to deploy the tool and trust it enough, it will actually go ahead and do those resizes automatically. So that's the actions component that was talked about later. We talked about intersites and actions. This is the action capability where if you give it the capability, it will actually go ahead and resize that limit for you. Again, based on the real-time resource requirement of the application because of that link to the App Dynamics. So that's kind of it in a nutshell from a demonstration standpoint. Just wanted to mention one other quick thing here around the security component. So, this being a banking application, security is obviously extremely important, and our customers are going to be inputting their data into a tool that, maybe the customer trusts as their bank, but that bank is pushing that data out to a lot of third-party services, namely, in this scenario, the credit check service or the credit check agency. So you need to make sure that your customer's data is being protected. Well, there's some vulnerabilities there that tend to be at the API layer. And the tool that we have within Secure App goes ahead and analyzes the vulnerabilities and provides you with a really quick and easy to look at risk score, or what we're calling exploitability score, depending on what's happening under the scenes within the application, and with the hooks to third-party components that you may be sending data across to. So that is another really fantastic part of the FSO capability around security, kind of layering across all three layers: the network, application, and infrastructure. So that's a really quick, just 10-15 minute look of what this tool does, in this type of scenario. Just really tying together what we heard from the presentation. I hope this clears up what the solution can do for any customer or anyone in the audience who wants to do a deeper dive. We would love to go through this. We have a number of other scenarios that may be more applicable to your business. If you're not a customer who's doing banking, we have other scenarios that you can look at where you can go in and play with the tool and understand at a much deeper level than what we just showed today, what we had time for today, in terms of the capability of the tool. So I will stop there and bring it back to Lucy to go continue with the rest of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mohammed. So I think I've not seen any questions on Q&A. So I think we can open up for anyone to unmute themselves and ask if they have a question.
Okay, so if there are not any questions, you can also drop some questions on the chat.
Okay, so you can share your questions as she has advised, as Pumzile has advised, or you can unmute yourself. Also, if you are willing, or if you want to have further conversation and engagement with us, we have also dropped our social media handles on our website in the chat area. So feel free to throw us an email after now, or visit our website, reach out to us on LinkedIn, or send us an email. I will also be dropping my email address in the chat area so that you can engage me further. If you have specific questions or conversations that you may not want to have on this the call, maybe because of the sensitivity of the information that is in your question or something of that sort, right? I've just dropped my email address in the chat area. I mean, a lot has been said. Pumzile, please go ahead.
Yes, no, I was just saying if, thank you so much to the customers for coming to the call. And if indeed, there are no questions, I'd just like to give over to Sebastian to just do a vote of thanks to the customers. Oh, we have a question actually that's just popped in before we close. So we have Timothy. Thank you, Timothy, for your question. And he says, what kind of infrastructure would be required to deploy this?
Okay. Hey, I can take that if you'd like. So yeah, I can. Let me just pull up something on my side before I can answer the question in a much more direct way. So excuse me 1 second. Okay, so very simply speaking, okay, the requirements to deploy this are quite minimal, and all of the parts of this tool are deployed through a SaaS capability coming straight from us. So there's no need to deploy much. However, there is a need to deploy a couple of different things. So the first thing is an application database agent. And for that database agent, you would need to have a single server without getting too deep into the details, but I just want to give an idea of, the scale of what you need. and this is for, any number of applications or however big your environment is, but you're looking at a single server or virtual server that has 4 cores, 16 gig of RAM, and 100 gig of storage, so quite minimal. And then you need an application server agent, which has an extremely small footprint, much smaller than the one I just mentioned for the database agent. And then there's a certain specific list of connectivity requirements that we would need for things like the App Dynamics controller and the DB agent server that I just mentioned, and the web server agent that I mentioned as well, where we would need access to a certain number of standard ports. So we need those connectivity requirements. And then as far as the infra capability is concerned, there is small and medium system requirements where you can have, up to 3,000 virtual machines for the small and up to, 50,000 virtual machines covered for the medium and large. And for that one, it's simply, 16 vCPUs with 32 GB of RAM and 500 gig of storage for the small, and then just a little bit higher specs for the infrastructure required for that infrastructure workload optimizer tool. So I hope that answered the question, but long story short, it's all delivered over SaaS. So it's almost zero requirements in terms of the infrastructure that we need you to make available, but it's not completely zero, and it's around the scale of the numbers that I just mentioned. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. We do have another question there from Ayodeji, and he says, how flexible is the reporting? A lot of data is consumed on this platform that needs to be reviewed by the business. So essentially, how flexible is the reporting?
Okay. Anyone else off the team want to take that? I mean, just to maybe don't fully understand the question, but in terms of the flexibility of the look or the capability that I showed as far as the dashboard is concerned, that is completely flexible, and that in fact is a customized view. So in that dashboard, you would be the person working with us as we deploy this tool in your environment to specify exactly what the application journey looks like, where you would be the person through interviews with us, where you would be telling us what the different components of your application are, and all of that stuff is completely custom for each and every application. In terms of reporting, I mean, all of these things can of course be exported, and you can set what timestamp you're looking at, and you can export any different number of data points that are available on the dashboard. That stuff is all able to be kind of reported on or exported in whatever type of timestamp or time capability that you're looking for. So all that stuff is pretty flexible. I think maybe we need a little bit more information about what it is you're looking to report on to be able to answer more intelligently. But yes, it's completely flexible, and that dashboard is in fact a customized thing to begin with.
I think in addition to that, we can also customize the dashboard based on the different personas who you want to give access to the dashboard. So then, while yes, there's a lot of data, it's only what's relevant to the different roles that you can be able to customize for them to only see what is specific to them as well.
All right, thanks. We also have a very critical question. Thank you, Tandan. And he says, my question is, I understand FSO is integrated majorly in AppD, Thousand Eyes, Intersight, and some other sectors. But my question is this a stand-all solution, or is there a different plan for those clients who aren't interested in all?
Okay, I can take that question if you'd like. So there's no, you know, to get the full experience, yes, I mean, ideally you would want to deploy not only those three components, but also the secure app. Okay, but we also recognize the way that this solution is built recognizes that not all customers would look to deploy all of these things simultaneously. So, you know, a quick example, we have customers that, and each and every one of these tools has been on the market for many years, and they're all class leading tools on their own, right? If taken on their own, they're fantastic tools that are, you know, in most cases, market leading with high market share. So we have many customers that would have already deployed, let's say, App Dynamics and Thousand Eyes individually over the past, you know, couple of years. And what we went in and did for them is to really get more power out of those tools by doing two things. The first thing is to turn on or switch on the integration or the APIs between the Thousand Eyes and App Dynamics that they already have running in their environments. So again, not purchased or not deployed before even FSO became a thing. But we were able to go in and tie the two pieces of technology together. And the second thing is at the API level where they can share telemetry between each other. And the second thing we do is build a dashboard similar to the one that we displayed earlier. The second thing is we also recognize that not every customer is going to, you know, let go of an investment they might have made in a different application performance monitoring tool, and that's okay. So we like to show that this is a unique capability that you won't get anywhere else. So if you're looking to kind of dip your toes in or look at adopting only a part of this because you might have invested somewhere else, that's also fine. And, you know, most of the customers, when they get a feel for it, tend to say, okay, well, we're going to let our old APM tool expire or go, and we're going to go full force with App Dynamics because we see the value of this. We see the value of the full stack observability and what it can provide for us as we deploy our applications that we don't see from these other tools, certainly not on an individual siloed basis. The third thing, which I think is also very important and is really a way of demonstrating the leadership that we have in this market is, and this could be the subject of a different webinar in the future, is something called the FSO platform. And that's a tool that Cisco is building. Is going to be, you know, live, or is going to be coming out in the next couple of months. So maybe by next quarter, you'll start to hear about the FSO platform. And the FSO platform is a different tool that's kind of a, you know, a standard data model that any application monitoring tool will be able to build on top of. So that's really the future facing you know, strategy for full stack observability is the FSO platform, where it's going to kind of be almost like an app store for observability, where any application developer can go in and build observability tools on top of that data model, where then you can start to share telemetry between any number of tools, not necessarily only Cisco ones. Any third party can go and build monitoring tools for any type of component, not even limited to IT. It can even be physical monitoring, whether it's security or IoT or otherwise. And then the customer can start to use the power of that platform to relate data from those different telemetry tools to each other. So we're looking at this at a very, very forward-thinking level in terms of observability and doing things that really you won't see from anywhere else in the market. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. Timothy, I'm not sure if you want to clarify further if your question is based off of Mohammed's latest piece. You said, is there logging in case one would need them? Is there logging in case one would need them? Maybe if you just want to provide more clarity on the question. Okay, is one able to retrieve logs? Is one able to retrieve logs? That's the question.
Okay, let me try to attempt this question. So the question, I want to believe that the question revolves around, okay, so these applications are supposed to harvest logs from those points, the infrastructure, the network, the application, and any other touch point, any other data point, and then of course dashboard the outcome to you and have both technical and business relevant detailed dashboard for the customer or projected for the customer in a very simple and easy way to consume, right? Of course, alluding to the demo that Mohammed had shared earlier. Now, the data that you're actually going to be consuming on that dashboard are all historical data. So, of course, in effect, all of that logs, all of the type of logging technology or protocols that is happening in the back end of your infrastructure is definitely available to you, of course, for historical view. I hope that addresses the question. Mohammed, you can add flesh to whatever it is that may stand by this question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. All right, so if there are not any more questions, then thank you, Timothy, thank you. If there aren't any more questions, then we'll go out and close the session. I'd like to hand over to Mr. Sebastian just to say a few words, and then Samuel, you can do the closing.
Right, thank you everyone. I hope you find this session very interesting. I find it quite engaging. And again, one good thing for this solution is we have local references in this market. It's not something new. It's not from the blues. And it's something we are pushing very strongly in the FSI, the telcos, and quite a lot of organizations. So feel free to contact us. We have our account managers around. Signal Alliance is there. Please, let's take this forward. Let's close this deal, and let's be able to make sure we make more money for you, Signal Alliance, make value for the customer, and also for everyone. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Sebastian. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Like you mentioned, we are open to further disengagement, have one-on-one with you. Yabode, you're here. Any final words?
No words from me. I'd just like to say thank you to the team, the Signal Alliance Consulting team and the Cisco team for sharing their time with us. We really do appreciate the customers for signing in to join us for this webinar today. Thank you so much to everyone on the call. Thank you, Punzile, for ensuring that the coordination was done perfectly. We appreciate everyone. And we hope that you did leave us a feedback in the last poll that was shared. The poll was shared earlier. Please leave us a feedback. Let us know if there are any areas, any aspects where which we can offer any kind of support. And I'm sure that the Signal Alliance Consulting team and the Cisco team are solidly here to provide whatever kind of support you might need. Thank you all so much once again. And from my end, I'd like to say goodbye to everyone. Punzile, any last words?
No, thank you so much, Yabode. A big thank you to the Signal Alliance team as well, Cisco team for joining, and our customers. Please feel free to reach out to both parties should you require any support, and have a good day, everybody.